Lewis Howes is an entrepreneur and host of the School of Greatness podcast, which is one of the top leadership and personal development podcasts on iTunes. He went from growing up depressed, becoming broke, and sleeping on his sister's couch, to changing the lives of millions of people through his podcasts, videos, books, and events. And today we're going to look at my take on his top 10 rules of success. Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 for my top 10. Top 10, 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Lewis Howes, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Find good mentors.
The thing about a lot of ball players, pro athletes, a lot of them live off their previous legacy. They don't create something when they're 28, 30 when they retire.
Right.
And they live off of their glory days.
Right.
And I was like, I don't have glory days. You know, I played arena ball. I didn't even play the NFL. So what can I create from this moment? And I found a couple of key mentors early on who challenged me. I realized from sports that I did really well under structure, under pressure, and under a goal and a challenge. Without that structure, without that coaching, without that goal, what was I striving for? So I had a few key mentors. I said, I want you to challenge me and give me a challenge every single week on how I can improve this.
Was this in person, over the phone? Or?
In person,
okay.
Yeah. In Columbus, Ohio, so some local mentors of mine there.
Business people? Or?
Yeah, business entrepreneur. Yeah. One was, had a business, an entrepreneur who'd also written a number of books who helped me write my first book. Another one was a professional speaker who got paid to do speaking. And I said, I know I want to be able to speak and present my message in public someday to move people, but I was terrified to speak in public at the time. So he guided me into doing that, and so on and so on.
Rule number 2, learn from hardships.
My dad gets injured. He got in a car accident, was in a coma for 3 months. And we didn't know if he was gonna live or die. Yeah. So it was this very uncertain time. And when he was in the coma, I said, what would he want me to do? He would want me to go live my dreams. And so I went after playing professional football right after that. And he eventually woke up, but we had to teach him how to write, how to talk, how to, we had to, change him constantly. Like he wasn't the functioning person that he used to be. He wasn't my dad anymore.
Yeah.
So it was an emotionally challenging experience because I lost the relationship with my father, but he's still in front of me. Yeah. I had to teach him how, he was like a kid almost. Yeah. And so to watch my father be this, provider, larger than life hero of mine, now we have to take care of him. It was a challenging experience for me as a 23-year-old. And I remember, so he had to sell his business to his business partner at the time. So there was no more financial support that I had because he was kind of funding my athletic endeavors, training, education, all that stuff, everything. He was like, you go chase your dream. Like, I'll take care of stuff. So when that realization came to me, like, I no longer have my dad to fall back on. I played football, got injured. He wasn't able to be there for me financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, as a mentor. He wasn't able to be there for me. Yeah. And I didn't have his company to fall back on, nor did I really want to. I mean, I almost failed it 3 times in a row. I didn't really like it.
Yes.
I liked people, but I didn't want to sell insurance.
Yes.
Just what he knew for 33 years. And that was probably the biggest thing that happened to me, because if he was still healthy and alive,
then you might be just to go
I'd probably sell life insurance in Delaware, Ohio, and be rising up in that city or whatever. Maybe I'd have moved to the big city of Columbus, Ohio. But as much as it's sad for me to know that he's still alive, but it's like a completely different relationship, and it's sad for me to know that happened. But I also think it had to happen for me to be able to become the man that I am today. Yeah. And to have the courage to be able to go after something that I didn't even know was possible.
Rule number 3, learn to let go.
You would always say to me, man, you got to move forward. Like, just keep going. You let go a little bit, let people in. You got to systematize. And I would like clutch on, like trying to control every little detail. And I've grown a lot in that regard. Like, we've gotten a lot better. I have a team now and I have support, and it's been amazing. But I still have that like impulse, that I'm trying to overcome a little bit.
I hear you, man. It's hard for me. Because when I started years ago in the online marketing space, I did everything myself, from the newsletter to the social media to the customer support to the sales, the marketing, webinars, and I wanted to learn it all. But I think as I've let go more and more, it's like my business has grown. So even though it's like, people make mistakes and I get frustrated sometimes, but it's like, you know what? I want to be able to grow as fast, and I got to be okay with some of those mistakes because other people are going to make mistakes.
Rule number 4, have a vision.
Seeing you on Ellen was dope.
Thank you.
That was
feel
really
very
neat.
grateful, very blessed. It was a dream of mine. I remember having a vision of dancing with Ellen on stage one time when I was on my sister's couch.
Right.
And I told her that in the first interview. I was lucky enough to go on twice. And I told her that in the first interview. And I was just like, I like to bring things full circle. I like to have a vision or a dream. And then actually, even if it's 10, 20 years later, I like to see it come true. Most people, I feel like, just if it doesn't happen within the first 6 months, they're on to something else.
Right.
I can be like as bored out of my mind doing the same thing over and over to try to do one thing. I think that's what's helped. Good book by my man, Evan Carmichael, Built to Serve. If you want to learn about your purpose and how to become a better leader in the world, I love this. He says, this is the starting point for everything. If you're confused about what to do next, if you're pressured by others to fit in or live their version of your life, if you feel held back because of people judging you, it's because you don't know who you are and what you stand for. You got to figure out who you are and what you want and how you can serve other people.
Rule number 5, create the right environment for success.
What happened, man? You're 8 years old, 6 years old. You want to be noticed. You want to be great. You want to be somebody. How does a guy build that? How did you build people now knowing you?
Yeah, I mean, from then it was just finding the right environment, the right coaches, the right training to become the best athlete I could be to get to that dream. Then when that was over, I knew I still wanted to inspire people. As a kid, I wanted to make people feel better about themselves. I wanted to inspire them through my athletics. I wanted to perform on the field where people would come out to watch me play and say, wow, that was an incredible play. He just went through all this adversity and made that play. I feel like I can do that in my life.
Right.
That's the symbol.
Because that's a bigger game, really, than sports.
It's a bigger game. It's a bigger game, of course. I wanted to inspire people who watch me.
Yeah.
And when I was done with that, I remember I went to I don't know if you're a fan of Tony Robbins or not, but I respect what he's created. It's incredible what he's built.
Unbelievable marketer.
Unbelievable. When I was 16, I went to my first big event, and it was a Tony Robbins event. And I remember it was in St. Louis, Missouri, about 15,000 people in this arena. Donald Trump was actually there speaking, Larry King Live, all these other people were speaking there. And I remember the inspiration that he created, whether you believed him or not, the inspiration he created was so powerful, and people took action in their lives. And I remember at one point he walked down to the middle of the arena. I was sitting about halfway back in the arena on the floor level. He walked down and stood right next to me, about this close. And I don't remember what he said or what he did, but I remember the way he made me feel. And his energy was so powerful and magnetic.
Yeah.
He didn't even look at me, but he was just standing there, and I was like, whatever he has, I want to create that for people in the world. I don't care what it is, but I want to inspire people.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was sports. And when that was done, I said, I want to create information. I want to teach people. I want to write books and do things that are that catalyst for people's inspiration. And I said, who do I need to become? What type of results do I need to create to have the backing, to have the credibility so that I can create a book or create a podcast or create something where people will be inspired by it, will they'll listen, will they'll buy. Who do I need to become? And that's what the last 8 years has been, getting results, having smaller goals every 3 to 6 months, achieving those goals, and then building momentum along the way.
Rule number 6, develop people skills.
I had 7 years of college. It took me to graduate. Like, I wasn't skilled at anything but sports and people. I learned how to, at an early age, observe people.
Yes.
And I became very intuitive about how people think, why they do the things they do. And I started to be aware and sensitive and very emotional to people's feelings, their desires, their dreams, their past, their everything. I didn't know that was a skill that I could use for, my greater good and the greater good of everything.
Rule number 7, do things outside the box.
Everything I do is for a reason too. I try to constantly do things that put me out of a box, that make me uncomfortable, and that challenge me. And talking about masculine vulnerability definitely is a challenge. You know, when I was in high school going into college, my siblings and I made a bet. They all said that I'd be like this drunk jock football player because I was going to play college football. They were like, you're going to go and be like a frat boy and this and that. And maybe it's part of my ego at the time where I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I didn't have a sip of alcohol all 4 years of college.
That's amazing.
Never even felt tempted because I just made that into my mind. I was like, I'm going to be different than what people want to put me in a box to be. You know, I've still never been drunk because I just continue to carry that on.
Wow.
I was in a school musical. I was in choir. I always did things. You know, I salsa dance. I try to do different things. That
You salsa dance well.
I've been salsa dancing for almost over a decade.
Wow.
Yeah, over a decade. It's a big passion of mine. And I just try to learn, constantly learn things that normally people that look like me, who grew up like me, would never do. Because I feel like there's so much richness of life that I would have missed out on had I stayed in this athletic jock core group that, you know, if I'm generalizing it, just kind of did the same thing and talked the same way and lived a certain lifestyle. And I just didn't want to live that life. I wanted to live a life of abundance, of learning, of constantly questioning who I am and if I'm doing things for the greater good or just for myself.
Rule number 8, be everywhere.
The be everywhere, folks. You got to be everywhere. This guy's an example of that. And I was just telling him on the break, his book right now is The School of Greatness. He's out. You got to get it. Go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, go wherever books are sold. And get it because it's talking about greatness. And on the break we were talking about, I said, dude, you got to be everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing right now. He's everywhere right now.
Someone left a comment on your screen a few minutes ago saying, I saw him on Gary Vaynerchuk's show, I saw him on Ty Lopez, I saw him on Rich Roll. Now he's on Grant Cardone, he's everywhere. And that's been my strategy is when you've got something you believe in, a dream, and I know you do this. When you've got a book, a project, whatever, a message, you've got to be everywhere, at least when you launch it, to get the buzz out, to get the word out. So many people don't fight for their dreams. They create something and then they just hope that people are to come to them. You've got to be willing to put yourself out there. You're the best example of this because you are unapologetically putting yourself out there in a powerful way. You don't care if people hate you, love you, as long as they know you.
Just know me, baby.
I know.
Just know me. I don't care. I'm running for president of the United States, man. And I operate like I have. I'm running for president, but I don't have a PAC fund behind me.
Right.
So look, you got to be out there every day. Look at Donald Trump. What Donald Trump
crushing it. Huh? He's crushing it. People hate him, but he's everywhere.
Rule number 9, take action.
When I had surgery, I broke my wrist and they had to put a bone from my hip into my wrist.
You see a scar.
See the scar here. They took a bone out of my hip, put it in my wrist. I was in a cast from my shoulder to my fingers for 6 months like this. Wow. So I was in this position. And when you're in a cast like this, I could move it here, I can move it here, I can move it here, but I couldn't straighten my arm. So I kind of rested and it would like scratch my shirt. When I was shirtless, it would like scratch my skin. It smelled, it was dirty, all these things. I was like, it didn't look good. So I invented this cast cover. I actually still have one. I think it's in that locker.
Yes. We'll take a shot of that.
This is over 15 years ago, I think. I invented this cast cover that I actually went on Alibaba.com. I had like $60 to my name. I was like, here's what I want, here's the design. I want it to be like a wristband, because I wore wristbands in football. I was like, I need a long wristband. That's double thickness. That's different colors, that has a thumb hole, like all these different
You were
things.
just thinking of doing it for yourself.
That's it. I just wanted a solution.
You weren't thinking of creating a product.
No, I was like, I need a solution for my pain. That was it.
Okay.
That's my first entrepreneurial idea, but I didn't know what it was. So I got this thing back from China. That was like 6 weeks later after I wired this money. I was like, I'm never gonna get this money back. I had no clue what was going on.
Was it difficult communicating with China?
Very difficult. I'm sending emails back and forth.
They don't understand. You try to understand what they say.
I had no clue what I was doing. But I went on
that.
Alibaba and posted something. And I got this box back with all these cast covers, right, that I made. And I remember saying to myself, wow, this thing is amazing. I could change them out with different colors. It fits over the thumb hole, it looks better. Now maybe I can make some money with this.
Wonder who else needs this, right?
Yes. There's lots of guys who break their arm and legs.
There's gotta be a few of them, more than you, okay.
So I remember I was dating a girl at the time and I was just like, I need to meet an inventor. Someone who's done this before that can help me. Because this is an invention, right? Even though it's just a piece of cloth. And she goes, I know an inventor.
Oh, wow.
And he just moved back to Columbus, Ohio. This is where I was living at the time. He just moved back.
Okay.
And I go, I need to meet this guy now.
Okay.
Like, put me in front of him, call him. I need to meet him now.
Okay.
I meet the guy the next day. And you know, at the time, I was a couple months out of football.
Okay.
And as a football player, I looked like pretty much like a thug. I was wearing a backwards cap. I had baggy pants. I was just this athlete jock mentality.
Yes,
so I show up with these baggy pants and backwards cap to a bar to meet this guy in this cast, and I was just like so passionate about this idea.
Was he scared of you? Like,
He was scared.
I can imagine. Yeah, a little intimidating.
I was rough around the edges, you know.
Yes.
And I was just like convinced this guy knew the answer.
Yes.
Because he'd done it before.
Yes. He may be afraid to say no to you.
Exactly. He's complete opposite of me. You know, he was more like analytical and nerdy in a sense. He was just like, but I brought this passion and this energy that I was just like, I need to make this happen.
Yes.
And I want to work with you. I want to make this happen. I don't know why, but he brought me on for 6 months. I worked for free for him for 6 months at his invention shop.
Wow.
In the kitchen, he had a closet that I had like a little desk that he put in for me. Yeah. And I was working for him, doing phone calls, trying to like promote his other products, going to trade shows with him and just learning about how to take an idea and bring it to reality.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is find richness on the other side.
I was born in '83. The 90s were interesting for me. 90s were a lot of suffering, actually.
For you?
Yeah, a lot of suffering.
Oh, and I see tears in your eyes. So.
Yeah. I mean, it was dark. I think it was just like, there was a lot of joy and love. I think we focus more on the suffering and the painful times than the love. I think we remember those times for whatever reason because they create trauma in our lives. But it also made me so caring and compassionate and just a big dreamer to realize that there's more than just this suffering and struggle. And that's what I think was the spark for me, is like you talked about some of the greatest leaders all suffered, and then they learn how to have like this incredible rich life because they know how dark it's been for them. And I think that's what I always focus on. No matter what challenge I've been through, there's always richness on the other side.
Now I have a special bonus clip from Lewis on how to reevaluate everything that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, who are 3 good mentors for you that you want to spend more time with? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you're still here watching and you promise, you commit, let's go Believe Nation. We don't just watch videos here, we do something about it. If you're gonna commit to taking action today, give me a hashtag Believe in the comments below. I want to celebrate you.
4 years ago, I got in a really big fight. I started getting angrier and angrier in my life. As I was achieving more and more financially, accomplishments, awards, all the nice things that you mentioned in the beginning, as those were happening, I would find myself more and more triggered emotionally from simple attacks that people had on me, whether it be like online, on social media, or in person. In my relationship, I was very triggered, where I would just get more and more bent out of shape and hurt in certain situations, and frustrated and resentful. And one day I was playing a lot of pickup basketball at this time. And so over a 6-month period, I was playing a lot of pickup basketball. And I was literally, every time I would go, I would get in some type of altercation. Usually it was extreme verbal altercation, screaming. If anyone ever stepped to me on the pickup courts in the rough West Hollywood neighborhoods.
The mean streets
of West Hollywood, you know, if anyone stepped to me, it was like an instant alpha reaction of like territory, like I own this is my court, don't ever try to talk to me in a bad way, don't try to foul me in the wrong way. And let alone I was doing the same thing to them. So it was like, but for whatever reason, all these things started coming up more and more, and I was getting more and more aggressive at the basketball courts in relationships, and then I would take it out on the courts on like 18-year-old kids. You know, these kids weren't even that big, right? And one day there was a guy who was actually bigger than me and older than me, and we were going at it like, you know, 2 silverback gorillas, like try to just like get their land, you know what I mean? And it got down to a really heated moment where he headbutted me, and it was just like, years of built up tension came out in that moment
where I, like superhuman strength came upon me. It was just like rage and anger. I had zero control over my emotions. I allowed my ego, my masks to own me as opposed to having emotional intelligence and owning the moment. And we got in a pretty bad fight. And at the end of it, I was just so fired up. I couldn't believe what I did. And the guy's face was just mauled, bleeding everywhere. And I was just like, what did I just do? What am I doing? It was just like, I remember running home in shame and fear. One, because the police station is right across the street from these mean streets of West Hollywood. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I have everything to lose in this moment. Why am I allowing myself to be so frustrated, so angry, to fight this guy on a simple basketball game where there's zero stakes? No one's watching. There's no money at stake. It's just my ego at stake. And I remember going home, looking in the mirror and just being like, who are you, Lewis? Like, who are you? But I was trembling. I was like, what are you doing and who are you? And that was the moment where I was like, I almost needed that catalyst to be like, okay, it's time to reevaluate everything, every relationship, the intimate relationship I was in at the time, relationship with my family, friends, everything. And the most important relationship, which was with myself.
If you want to see the top 10 I did on Jocko Willink, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
And war, there's nothing better than the sunrise in a free country.